Cyberpunk is a genre, but it's also a feeling. A feeling of the undeniably cool, yet dystopian future that is to come. Some say we are already living in a cyberpunk world, and we might be in terms of how society is revolving, but aesthetically, we're slowly getting there. There are two seminal works of cyberpunk that are credited with kicking off the genre: Ridley Scott's Blade Runner in 1982 and William Gibson's novel Neuromancer in 1984. But I'm going to be talking about Akira and Ghost in the Shell, which were released in 1988 and 1995 respectively. Both films, Akira and Ghost in the Shell, have significantly impacted the portrayal of cities in modern cyberpunk media by presenting them as sprawling, densely populated metropolises that showcase the consequences of rapid technological advancement and the growing divide between social classes in urban environments. Cyberpunk carries two words. The cyber denotes the power of technology and the virtual world. And as Andrew M. Butler writes in his book Cyberpunk, the punk is referring to the lowlife, the working or lower middle class characters, the have-nots. Cyberpunk is about how the great privatized forces that rise could erode our sense of civilization, the individual, the body, and the mind. The standard cyberpunk cityscape is a fitting representation of all of this, as the lines between everything are blurred. Nothing stands out from the whole. Henry Lefebvre writes in State Space World that space is social. It involves assigning more or less appropriated places to the social relations of reproduction, namely the division of labor and its organization. The opening scene of Akira, where we meet Kaneda and Tetsuo as they ride through Neo-Tokyo, we are shown a megacity, one that is full of neon advertisements and sky-high buildings that show the difference in the class of society. The city is literally divided by the heights, with gardens on the tops of buildings for the rich, while the roads are full of trash, riots, and biker gangs wreaking havoc on the civilians. Ghost in the Shell shows the divide in the city through a series of scenes. The opening scene shows Kusanagi on top of a high-rise, where she assassinates her given target. The top floors are for the executives who make decisions for how the city will run, while the market and lower levels of the city show how low life is, despite all of the high tech that exists. Every cyberpunk story is the tale of desperately trying to be more than you are in a world that doesn't want you to succeed, doesn't care if you survive the attempt, and honestly, would really rather prefer if you didn't. The city itself is an antagonist. It's designed to trap you in it, lure you in with all the shining lights, but at the end of the day, it takes you to a place just as dark, if not darker than where you were when you started your journey. The biggest piece of cyberpunk media today has to be the game Cyberpunk 2077. Released in 2020, Cyberpunk 2077 takes place in an alternate future of the world we live in. The timeline of the Cyberpunk series diverges from our own in the 1990s with the fall of the Soviet Union and the spread of nuclear weapons on the black market. The world experiences economic crisis and collapses, and in the chaos, corporations fill the power vacuum and become as powerful as the countries they are housed in. By 2077, corporate influence is pervasive, and this can be seen in the city that surrounds you. The world of cyberpunk is characterized by lawlessness, chaos, and advanced technology. The lights, the crowds, the overlooming heights, Night City is the place you call home in Cyberpunk 2077. This world is immersive, it pulls you in, it makes you feel that you are there and that you want to be there. Night City is supposed to represent the hellscape dystopia of raw, unchecked capitalism, and megacorps turning into basic politics with gangs in their pockets keeping the streets in check. But somehow, you look past all of the crazy violence and corrupt corporations. The thing about Night City is that during the night, it looks beautiful, flashy, colorful, and cool. But during the day, when the hot sun shines, it looks dirty. You see the smoke and the pollution. You can see why it's called Night City because that's when it looks its best. The city is divided into 6 districts: City Center, Haywood, Watson, Westbrook, Santo Domingo, and Pacifica. If you get on the highway, you can ride out into the desert, the Badlands. Each district has its own unique look, from the appearance of the buildings, businesses operating there, to even the people you meet, and they all contain a number of sub-districts. Gangs rule the outskirts of the city with power, while the city center is operated by corporations with money. Taking similarities from Akira and Ghost in the Shell, the highest levels of the city belong to those who can afford it and have an influence over the city. As a player in the game, you get hints of the highest of highs and the lowest of lows as Night City eats you and spits you back out. When you ride around Night City, you can see the inspiration that the game has taken from Akira and Ghost in the Shell. The bike that I ride is an homage to both films, with the design of the bike being inspired by Akira and the name of the bike being the Kusanagi. It's a clever way by the game developers to pay respects to the anime that brought life to Cyberpunk. There are many other Easter eggs, such as the Blade Runner one, with a figure resembling Roy Batty on top of a building hunched over, as if he was left there at the end of the film. When you take a look at all of the Cyberpunk media that has been produced, the one thing that they all have in common is the design of the city. From a distance, it looks wonderful. You want to be there. You want to be amazed with all of the lights and feel yourself becoming small in a city that is larger than life itself. You see yourself making it to the top, but it's all an illusion. That's the truth of Cyberpunk. With all of the technological advancements and the glamour of the city, you think you can make a difference, but you end up realizing there's not much you can do when the city was designed to keep you from succeeding. Perhaps there's a parallel to the world we live in. New York City. We all come here thinking we can make it, and very few actually do. But to most of us, we'll only find ourselves reaching a point where we are so close yet so far to success. Maybe that's the point of living in a city. As space is social, you are able to interact with different kinds of people. Just walking around Manhattan, you can see the different social classes that live here, everybody just trying to survive. From afar, everybody wants to live here. They associate the city with success. But once you come here, you realize that it was all just a mirage. We may already be living in a cyberpunk world, we just don't know it.